Hey, it's Doug from the Rise Above Gym channel, and I'm going to show you how to use a TRX to gain better mobility. Let's check it out. The TRX is not just a piece of equipment used for body weight exercises like rows, push-ups, and split squats. You can use it for mobility, and it's especially good for the hips and shoulders, and I'll show you some of those exercises later. The reason why it's so good is because you can hold on to it and it's supportive, so you can take some of your body weight out of the movement and you're able to get in those positions a little bit better without putting all that stress on your body. So if I were to tell someone, to do a lateral lunge and get as low as you can, you may not be able to do it because you don't have any support, your body's pulling you forward. With the TRX, we can counterbalance, we can hold on and be able to get in those positions so we can go to the body weight versions of them. We're doing a little bit better. It's also free moving, so I can rotate this very well and get into those interesting positions where I may need a little bit of help, or I can do it a little bit better by just adjusting my positioning of my hips or shoulders a little bit better. You can incorporate this into your natural program, so you can just say, okay, I'm going to warm up with some lunges, or I can do some shoulder movements, which I'll show you in a second. Or you can use it for a rehab type thing. So let's say you had a post-surgery and you're weeks down the road, now you get some movement back. This is a great one for that. Also, if you have a minor injury, let's say some tendonitis or some frozen shoulder, or your hips just aren't moving, we can get that going as well with the TRX. So there's no real right or wrong when you use the TRX. I just say incorporate your workout either as a warm-up, or you can do it as part of your workout in between sets. So let's say I'm doing a set of back squats with a bar. I can throw in some shoulder mobility in between. It's not going to impede my back squats too much, and I'm getting both accounted for in my workout. All right, let me show you some of my favorite exercises that we do here at the gym for certain populations. So shoulders are huge, and they should move in pretty much any direction. A lot of people have a tough time moving their shoulders completely overhead without lifting the rib cage. The TRX can help out with that. We're going to grab on the low end of the loop, and we're going to do a snow angel. So I'm going to be here, and I'm going to walk as forward as I comfortably can. Now, the more forward I am, the harder it is. The more back I am, the easier it is. So if you have someone with a tight shoulder, you can move them back and they can do this movement. So let me start about midway, and I'm just going to make a standing snow angel. So I'm just going to open up, keep my rib cage where it is, and I'm going to go behind my back. Now there's two things that you're going to look for. So behind the back, to see if the arm stops or has to rotate to get further, we don't want that. And also same thing going forward. If I have to go here and shrug my shoulder to get more movement or move my body in a weird way, we don't want that. We want to be smooth. So I want to start here, and I want to smoothly go behind my back until I get a nice stretch and then come back up. Now if it's easy, I can just walk forward and make it a little bit more challenging. I got a little pop in my shoulder there, probably a tendon rolling around. And I just want to get that mobility. And as a trainer, you're going to watch them to make sure that both arms are moving simultaneously and in the same pattern. So the snow angel is a great one for people with tight shoulders, especially overhead, or if they're coming off an injury and they got to start getting their arm back overhead. The next one I'm going to show you some overhead flexion. Now we can do this one of two ways. So I'll show the more simple way, in which is I'm going to grab the handles here, and instead of making this big snow angel loop, I'm just going to do similar to a fallout, where I'm going to move my body a little bit and then try to get my arms overhead and then back off and repeat. Again, I'm trying not to lift my rib cage or my pelvis as I'm doing this, and I can go forward a little bit, lean into it a little bit, stretch it out and back it off. And again, I'm trying to keep my shoulder blades down. Now that is the simpler way. The other way, facing the anchor, I have to actually pull a little bit. Now the more upright I am, a little bit easier. So this is going to require some muscle activation to help assist the movement. So it's a little bit harder, and we got to make sure our shoulders can handle it. Now if I go walk forward, it's going to be even more challenging. And this kind of blurs the line of mobility / exercise. So we don't want to make it too stressful or walk too far forward. Now all I'm trying to do is get straight. And again, if I kind of stand up a little bit more straight, I'm getting more of a mobility rather than an actual exercise where I'm activating the muscles. One of my favorites is a lateral line stretch, I call it. So lateral line is just a name for the side of the body. There's, fascial lines of the body that kind of reference that. But, let's just say this outside of the body. I'm going to hook the TRX together by perpendicularly putting the handles through. And I'm going to grab down at the loop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten my arms. I'm going to pull my rib cage down and then keep my feet pretty close together. And then what I'm trying to do is lean away and get a nice stretch. I'm going to take my arm away, but get a nice stretch in the armpit area or the lat in this lateral portion. And then I'm going to squeeze my core and come back. And I'm just gently increasing the range of motion. With this one, it's very easy to rotate. We ideally try not to rotate, especially if you're focused on mobility of that rib cage and lateral area. A lot of times during the day we're forward, right? So we can't get open. This is going to help open everything up, lengthen everything up in that area. So we want to get nice and long and think about separating those rib cages. It's going to make you feel taller. It's going to fix your posture a little bit and also strengthen up your shoulders. Last thing, keep your glutes tight while you're moving because it'll protect your low back. If I'm really loose here, I'm going to sink and could strain the low back, especially on the way back up. So just be very engaged, tuck the tailbone, arms down and straight. I want to laterally move my hips or move it to the outside. When I feel a stretch in my armpit area, I squeeze and come back. And of course, you're going to do the other side. This one I use for the hips, especially if someone has knee issues or they had knee replacement surgery or ACL surgery and they're just getting going again. You can use this to help take body weight off the joint itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn our palms in. I'm going to use this to help facilitate a squat. Back in the day when I was doing some physical therapy aid work, we'd use the ball against the wall, the stability ball, and squat. Now that is good, but I found that people really leaned into the ball and pushed back and made this kind of chair effect. And the weight wasn't over the center of their body. So yes, they could do the movement, but it wasn't practical in the sense that we take the ball away. You cannot squat like that, you'll fall backwards. So this will allow for a proper squat if done right, whereas you just want to push back a little bit and squat straight down. So I do get a little bit of a shift forward in the shins and I come back up and come down. Now, the mobility comes in where we can get lower. Also, the mobility comes in, let's say someone can't get that low, you can actually do a little bit of a sit back more, and then as they get better, just tell them to shift their weight a little bit forward, use less of the handle for assistance, and then they can get to a proper squat and get to proper depth. And also challenge their knee to just be comfortable getting into those lower positions. One that I struggle with is the overhead squat with the arms overhead, and this is a good way to use this piece of equipment to help facilitate that. So one way you can do it is get into a bottom position of a squat. I have to get forward a little bit here, and then I'm just going to start to raise my arms and then try to get that motion to move me forward and stretch out as I come up. So my hips are stabilized and I'm trying to move my body forward as I do that. Again, it's kind of blurring the lines of an exercise, but if I loosen these up or lengthen these up a little bit, I can get a little more range of motion as well. So when I squat, I gotta get back here, and then it's a little bit looser. I can go less of a strength exercise and feel a little bit more. Now you can also do it in combination. So as I descend, I'm gonna raise up. So I'm gonna descend and then kind of raise up overhead as I do it, and then come back up. So I'm going to come down, raise up, push my chest forward a little bit and back. The better you are, the more forward you can get, and the more you can get your arm over here. So if you have to do a barbell overhead squat, let's say for CrossFit or something like that, this will help you get that motion, get those shoulder stabilizers strong so you're able to do the barbell version of it. One exercise that's difficult to do on your own, especially if you have limited hip mobility, is the lateral lunge or the Cossack squat, and it's just getting side to side. So the TRX again can help you do that. So I can take a step, sink and shift, and I can lift my chest up, and when I'm down here I can kind of wiggle around a little bit, breathe in and sink. I can use this to come back up, so I'm not putting a ton of stress on my knee to force myself back up, and then I can shift to the other side, sink. You can play around with your toes, so I can open my toe up to the ceiling and come back. Again, I can get down here, I can shift back and forth, try to sink a little lower, open my toe without putting a lot of stress on the joint. That is a great exercise. Good warm-up one, and also a good way to learn to get that lateral lunge or Cossack squat. So when you go to the kettlebell version or the bodyweight version, this is a good precursor for those. All right, the last one I'm going to give you is not necessarily a rehabilitative exercise, and most people don't really need to do this. But again, if we want to work the overhead portion, we can load bear it with a closed chain with a hand on the floor, and we can do like an A-frame or a pike. This is good for if you want to learn how to do handstands down the road, but it's also good shoulder mobility, and it's a safer way because I'm supported. But it's also challenging because the TRX is going to move around a little bit, so I got to stabilize with my core and my hips while I do it. So what I'm going to do is put the feet in the loops, and I'm going to get to a top push-up position. And then what I'm going to do is I'm basically pushing into the ground, hip and shoulder mobility, getting into this high pike, and then back down. I don't want to drop too low, but I'm pushing in the ground, pushing my hips into the air, and I'm getting really good shoulder strength and mobility in that movement. So again, that's one that's a little more advanced. It's a good one to throw into your workouts. It's kind of a core exercise as well. You can finish up your workouts with that. I probably wouldn't maybe start it unless you're doing start your workout honestly with that, unless you're doing some type of calisthenic day, because it is a little taxing. Keep the reps kind of low, get your quality of movement good with that, and then you'll build some strong shoulders. So if you go to handstand down the road, or if you just want to build up your shoulders in different positions, that's a great one for that. I want to thank you for watching this video. So if you have a TRX lying around your house or your gym, hang it up and warm up with some mobility exercises. Get everything going. I feel pretty good right now. I can probably work out if I want to. And then that way you can figure out like what you want to do for the day. So I'm doing my mobility. I can check in with my body, see how my shoulders are feeling, see how my hips are feeling. Like, yeah, I can squat pretty well. Maybe I can go up and weight today a little bit, or I can, do a few more reps. And then if you're not feeling good, you can do more mobility, or say, okay, I got to focus on single leg, or I got to focus on more pressing than overhead today because my shoulder's a little bit tight. So the TRX is a good way to assess your mobility, gain mobility, and build up strength. If you like the video, please like it down below. We put a new video out every week. Thanks again. Consider subscribing as well, and we'll see you next time.